first official video after the ban list, and we're going to make a video on what I think the tiers are for the current decks in Speed Duels.
5, 4, 3, 2.
What's up guys, it's Yugi Bros, and we're going to create a tier list regarding 30 different Speed Duel skills and their various variants for different decks. As you see here, we have Tier 1, which would be the top meta. We have Tier 1.5, which is also meta, but just not quite there. We have Tier 2, which is kind of meta, but you know, it's a little rogue. We have Tier 3, which is solid rogue. And then we have, I guess that's an option as a deck thing. And then, of course, we have Good Luck. And I don't have all the skills here, obviously. I'm not going to go through every single skill in Speed Duels. And there are definitely probably skills I am missing, but this is what I think the majority of the stuff being played right now is. So we're going to go through this. But before we begin, I do want to preface with this list is my own thoughts. I understand I am not the Speed Duel guru, and I'm sure that I will have various naysayers in the comments telling me why I am wrong. And listen, I'm here for it. I love the debates, for sure. But don't get too hung up over specific things that I might say. If you disagree, just have the conversation with me down below and we'll go through them. But I'm going to start with the most obvious card here, and that is My Precious Queen is the best deck by far. And I don't mean the insect variant that I've showcased. I mean the variants that people are playing with either the Red Eyes cards or the Stall Insect deck. Shout out to TCG Infinite for covering both the top 4 decks from YCS Vancouver's Attack of the Giant card from both Saturday and Sunday. Insect Stall won on Saturday with My Precious Queen, and a variant that just stalls the opponent forever, showcasing various ways to stall out the opponent, and you never lose because you always make tokens. So as long as your opponent doesn't do piercing, you will almost never lose the game, and your deck is 30 cards, and you also have Jar of Avarice, so you're going to be around for a long time. On Sunday, they played another My Precious Queen variant. This is the one that plays the Red Eyes package, and this is the one you see more online, where between the Red Eyes package giving you your offense, the tokens giving you defense, and cards like Token Sunday to clean up anything your opponent puts up there, it's just a whole lot of BS. So as it is Sunday, 3 of the top 4 is on My Precious Queen, and the only other person is on Twisted Personality. And on Saturday, the skills were Queen, Iron Grit, which we'll talk about in a second, a Bountiful Ocean, which I find wild, and another My Precious Queen. So I think it's safe to say this is 100% the best skill slash variant of decks in the game currently, and that's why it's obviously Tier 1. The next one I'm going to talk about is the one we just brought up, and that is Twisted Personality. This skill is still crazy, even though it got errated. It used to be that every time either player took damage, it would get counters. Now it's only when you take damage. But most notably in something like Vampires, where you pay 500 to use a lot of the effects that counts towards the skill, giving you counters to then either rip cards out of your opponent's hand or destroy face-up cards on the field. Card is still wild, and as of the ban list, it went to the one-ofs list, but I still think it's still going to have a big hold in the format, because while playing it now, you can't use cards like Golden Ladybug Offerings, Floodgate, Nightmare Wheel, and Zoma. The fact is, you can still play a plethora of decks with this skill and not worry about playing any of those other cards, so card's going to be in the game for a long time, I think, coming forward. The last and final option that I have in the Tier 1 slot is Cyber Angels with Machine Angel Ascension. This deck got, I feel like, stronger off this list, and I'm scared because it was already like one of the best decks, and now you have 3 Ben 10 and 2 Machine Angel Ritual guaranteed to you, as opposed to what it was before, which is you had to make some combination of those 2 monsters out of the 3 list total. And I understand you don't have to play 3 Ben 10, you can get away now with playing like DD Warrior Lady again, or Book of Moon or something, but just giving the deck more options is scary to say the least. So I do think that will be another top tier contender going forward, and that is the only 3 decks I have in the top meta Tier 1 options. Let's talk about Tier 1.5. Battle City Siren. This card's new out of the box. I think in the right decks, it's really strong. You play it a lot with the Red Eyes stuff as well. Switching the battle position of a monster your opponent controls twice per duel gets you pretty far depending on what you're playing against, and if you're putting up beat sticks, doesn't matter what they have, or if you do piercing a lot, it also doesn't matter what they have. You can put monsters in defense for piercing, or if you have big big beat sticks, you can put defensive things in attack mode, and it snowballs pretty quickly. So this card is solid, I think, for a lot of different variants, and you can do a plethora of different options with it as well. So I would have it in the tier 1.5 spot. You'll definitely see this card in a lot of different things. The second I have is looking into the future. This card is still strong. You can't play spells the turn you activate the skill, but it lets you scry the top 3 of your deck, rearrange them in any order you would like, and you can do that every turn. You just can't play spells the turn you do that, but doesn't say you can't do spells on your opponent's turn. So anything like quick plays, you'll just set them and use them on the opponent's turn. And if you really need to use a normal spell, just use a normal spell. You just don't get the skill for the turn, but it's once per turn, which is crazy, and it's unlimited there. And something like Crystal Beasts utilized this card the most, and Crystal Beasts just got Crystal Regeki off the list, so you best believe you probably see that back in the format again in some capacity. So I think this card solidly still sits in the tier 1.5 spot. We haven't seen a lot of it online as of late, but I feel like people are trying to mess with the newer stuff more than the older stuff, unless it's something like Twisted or Machine. So, it is what it is. And then I feel like this is going to be the controversial one here. I think Forged Steel deserves to be in the conversation as a tier 1.5 deck. A lot of people will argue with me specifically that the problem with playing Red Eyes with Forged Steel is that you end up drawing a lot of bricks depending on how you play the deck, but I would argue it is depending on how you play the deck, and you could probably play a more potent Red Eyes build with less vanillas, less spirits in the deck, and more like actual cards. And giving Darkness Dragon the ability to reborn a dragon from your grave every turn is insane, right? So even if you do play one normal monster, if you can loop regular Red Eyes Black Dragon, that's crazy in itself just as a beat stick, but then also Forged Steel turning any of your either Red Eyes monsters or any dragon normal monster you control into Red Eyes once per duel so that you can summon Darkness Dragon a lot freer. I just feel like a deck like that with the ability to spam the field and not in like the token fashion, but just beat sticks on the field is just too good to put in a tier 2 spot. But I think it's not quite tier 1 considering you can brick on stuff like that. You are playing more bricky cards because it's more Red Eyes centric. So yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but the deck is still very potent in what it does. So I put it in 1.5. I'm sure people would argue I should put it here. But we're going to stick it there for now, and we're just going to ride with it. And you can shoot me down in the comments as to why you don't agree with that card right there. But a lot of people I said would shoot me down due to Jinzo going to 2, and then that went to 2. So, I'm just saying. Next up, tier 2 decks. Heart of a Warrior. I haven't messed with this on my channel yet, but you will see it in the coming future. The ability to summon out a fusion monster, level 5 or lower warrior from your extra deck with no effect every turn is kind of decent, considering you can summon some type of, I don't want to say beat sticks. The best thing you can bring out currently is Gilta, I believe, at 1850, but the discards sometimes can benefit you, and it's just free monsters every turn, right? So you don't need to draw a monster, and you don't need to play as many monsters, considering you are summoning free monsters from the extra deck. And then you can do stupid gimmicky things like play something like Fusion Weapon, which will boost your monster's attack by 1500 if it's a fusion, of course, or the ability to summon free things. Keep in mind, you can't normal summon or set the turn you use this skill, but you can special summon, and that can lead to a lot of interesting plays. Next one I have is another Joey skill, and that is Iron Grit. Now, I really didn't think this skill would do a whole lot. Gear freed monsters are unaffected by other card effects. So what? That's what I said. And to my disbelief, this skill's actually seen a lot more play because you can kind of just play a good all-around deck and then also be playing 3 monsters that are just unaffected by everything. And if you can protect that card, theoretically, it can push through everything. The downside is it's only 1800 and you can't equip anything to it or give anything to it on your side because it's unaffected by all card effects, not just the opponent's. So on that note, it's a little lackluster, but in my opinion, I still look at it as, okay, but so what? Gearfried's unaffected by everything. But a lot of people have proved me wrong, so I will give credit where credit is due, and I will put it in the tier 2 slot. However, I'm not putting it any higher than that because I solely don't see the reason for it to be better than the rest of these cards. Moving forward, this is going to be a kind of a shock. Knight of Legend has seen more play as of recent, and I don't know whether to put it here or here. It still feels like Rogue to me, a Gaia the Fierce Knight deck, but you can do different things. You can mix it with Relinquished, you can mix it with other ways. You can play it in like a warrior-centric deck where like if you stack Command Knight with it, then you're bringing out have Gaias at 2700 that do piercing and let you draw if you do the piercing, so I'll put it in tier 2. It's weird to say that. I didn't think the skill would see much play beyond the last few formats, and the fact that you can't activate cards that are set. Well, the skills face up, which will be forever once you stick a Gaia on the field, seems more gimmicky than good, but people have proven me wrong once again, so it's kind of seen more meta play, and I feel like it kind of deserves the tier 2 slot over anything else. I still kind of want to throw it here, but like all my tier videos, we'll start here, and if we feel like at the end of the video we need to move it, we'll move it as according. Guardian of the Tomb, another card I did not expect to see at all being played, and yet I've been proven wrong. During the opponent's main phase, when a monster is special summoned from your spell and trap zone while you have no cards in your hand, you can draw a card, and if you do, you can then set one spell or trap from your hand. I guess. So I get here where if you're playing a lot of trap monsters, like, you're never going to have a hand anyways, and then being able to flip a trap monster in your opponent's turn nets you a draw, and then you set another, let's say you drew a trap monster, you can set it that same turn so that going into your next turn, that trap monster is live. I get where this card has its advantages. Card is definitely interesting for sure and creates a lot of cool strategies, and it's seen a lot of play as of recent, so I'll definitely throw it in the kind of meta slot. It's again, I don't think it's like the best of the best, but the deck can facilitate a lot for you, so I'm definitely not going to poo-poo on the card for sure. Next one, Bountiful Ocean. I said this card was not nearly as good as the Kairyu skill, and while I still agree it's not, if you don't want to get sucked into playing Kairyu, then you play this. This is definitely the best Yumi skill out there that's not Tears from the Deep, and the card does do a lot for you. While Yumi is on the field, your non-effect water monsters you control are unaffected by non-water monster effects. And then once per turn you can add a water monster from your grave to your hand, but for the rest of the turn you can't activate cards or effects until you normal summon that monster. But if Yumi's on the field and you're adding stuff like Terror King Salmon, then Terror King Salmon comes out. It's 26, and you know, cards like Fish Depth Charge and stuff really make that work. Patrick Warren on the Saturday Giant card tournament in YCS Vancouver played this and got, I believe it was 3rd, and his list is quite interesting. The only fish in his deck other than Piercing Moray is Terror King Salmon, but he does make use of 3 fish Depth Charge, so I mean, I'm sure it works out. The Gale Lizard's a cute tech. It is a water monster, and you know, it does bounce the thing to your hands, so you have the ability to add that back if you need it. And then of course 3 Warrior of Atlantis paired with 3 Legendary Ocean just to get this thing out as much as possible. What I do like about this skill is that it's not like a once per duel effect. It's all while Yumi is on the field you gain the following. So if you can keep facilitating Yumi, aka Legendary Ocean, back to the field, then everything on this card is live, and the recursion is definitely there with its second effect, so I think this card is kind of underrated and might see a lot more play going forward, so let's throw it on the kind of meta slot. Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. I'm gonna say Rogue. Card is good. Like I said, I don't think the card is bad. I think it could have came off the list and nothing would have really changed. Maybe it would have had a little bit more synergy with stuff, but I do think the card is still decent if you're playing Parasite Paranoid, of course, and something to facilitate with Cocoon. I think it's a good rogue strategy. I don't think it's like insane by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think the card is solid. Let's talk about my favorite water deck in Terrors from the Deep. I would love to chuck this here and say that it's better than this one, but I do understand in this version specifically you're playing a lot of bricks. I'd argue it's still better than a Bountiful Ocean, but there's been no official results to prove that, and no one seems to be really playing this online either. I do understand it's a very old skill, so we'll leave it on Rogue for now. I love playing Rogue as it is. Most of my videos are Rogue decks, but every now and then I'll sprinkle in some meta stuff. But I think that like it's fun to make Rogue decks quote-unquote competitive. In the early Yugi Bros days, I actually played Relinquished for most of the first few formats, and a lot of people would give me crap saying Relinquished wasn't meta, and then I brought it to 2019 Nationals, and I played in I think 3 different Speed Duel flights. This was before they did Attack of the Giant cards, and I went undefeated in all 3 of them with Relinquished when it was just Blue Eyes Gravekeeper format. So people will call stuff Rogue forever, but I feel like especially in Speed Duels you can play almost anything and make it relevant and then top with it. Obviously there are skills that are just better and leagues ahead of everything else, but that doesn't mean stuff like this isn't also playable. So this is actually like my favorite tier slot, and we're going to take full advantage of another one of my favorite decks and chuck it here as well, and that is Ultimate Wizardry, the spell counter deck. I think this deck is solid. I'd argue it should be up here, along with this. That should also probably be up here. And I'd probably chuck this down here. But until results say otherwise, I think we'll just leave them where they're at. But I think the spell counter deck has a huge amount of upside. I understand I play a 30 card variant, and if you want to be more competitive, you should probably play closer to a 20 card variant. If you want me to work on a 20 card variant, I definitely can, and we'll put up a video for that in the future. Same goes for another Terrors version, but I'm trying to, expand my horizon here and not play the same old, same old. But I do think both of these cards are actually solid in what they give you for deck options, but I think Ultimate Wizardry is actually a bit better than Terrors. I think you can do more with just spell counters and speed duels than you can with specifically Carrier Gen. But again, let me know why I'm wrong or right in the comments, and let's continue. I never thought I'd talk about this card ever since it's errata, but I'll agree that it's actually still not bad. The card has upside in the sense of now they've changed it to you can normal monsters with one less tribute, though you cannot control any monsters, I believe, to do that effect. But your normal machines are unaffected by spells, and while we still only have Colossalus as a good option, I'd argue now with Jinzo being at 2, the deck has more upside than downside. You still can't play non-machine monsters. As soon as one hits the graveyard, if it's not a machine, the skill gets flipped down forever. So you're still locked into only playing machines, but we don't have a whole lot of good machine skills in general, and this is probably still one of the best ones. I'd say Heavy Metal Raiders would have been if there was a good way to keep it on the field and protect it, but there isn't, so until then, I'd say Spellproof Armor, good rogue deck for sure. Dark Unity. I think variants of this are still underrated, and I think like Evil Hero Dark Gaia decks in general are still really well positioned, especially when people aren't expecting them. Something like Anti-Magic Arrows, I feel revamps skills like this, where the whole gimmick is drop a Dark Gaia at 1,000,000 attack points and try to swing for game in one shot. Before you had to luck draw the spell and trap out, but now with Anti-Magic Arrows, it doesn't matter how many spell and traps they have. You activate that, they can't do anything for the turn, and if you can capitalize and win in one turn, then there you go. Let's talk XYZ. Union Hanger just came off the list. That means that now, if you wanted to play the Hanger and Foolish prior with XYZs, you were playing probably 2 Hanger and no Foolish. Now you can play 3 Hanger and 2 Foolish. So this deck got a lot of upside on this list. The downside is that skill still got errata, where you have to shuffle a card from your hand into the deck to fuse, and that's not really all that great going forward for that deck. But I will say, I expect to see it a lot more now, and I think it's a good rogue option. Before I would have said good luck with the way it was worded and the way the ban list had it, but now I'd put it here for sure. I think it's solid rogue. We'll definitely mess with it for sure. And now on to the I guess that's an options. Let's talk about this. Victory of the Shadow Riders I feel is the best skill for the Sacred Beast deck. Unfortunately, the Sacred Beast deck is very gimmicky in that you're only playing Haman because it's the only good one of the 3. And yeah, you can drop it turn 1, but you can't attack, theoretically, if you're playing it through Dark Summoning Beast. And then also, it's a one-trick pony type deck. If they out your Haman, unless you stick another one, I don't really know what you're doing. I know that the deck that played this for a while would play Malicious Edge to mitigate having more than one option, so that at least if you're not sticking Haman, you can drop a 26 Piercer, and that's pretty good, but that only gets you so far. I will say cards like Anti-Magic Arrows once again make something like this a bit more viable, but not much. So I'd put it in, I guess that's an option, but that's about all I feel with that card. Room for Growth has always been played in gimmicky things like the Attack Directly deck with Raging Flame Sprite and Crystal Beast Amethyst Cat. I get that you can play it in other things as well. I haven't really seen this card lately, but I do think it still has potential to be good. It could be rogue, but right now I'm just gonna chuck it, and I guess that's an option. No More Mrs. Nice Mai has an errata, so that now you're not forced to pop your own spell or traps if your opponent doesn't have any when you inflict battle damage. I think that's solid. However, does it trump the previously named skills? Maybe these? I just don't think it's better than any of these. You have Spell and Trap hate cards in the game, so unless you really want to have extra ways to pop Spell and Traps, or you don't want to main anyways, or side anyways more or less, to out Spell and Traps, this is a good card. I do think this card actually might see more side deck play since you can side deck skills, but aside from that, I don't really think it has a place in the game. I just think with the errata, it became an option versus just an irrelevant card you wouldn't play. Lately, I've been messing with a Dark Scorpion list that I think is cute, but it's again very gimmicky. You guys will see that duel video sometime this week, it'll go up. I think this deck in general has potential, and I think it catches some people off guard if they can't really deal with it too well. The ability to just attack directly with all the Dark Scorpions and then gaining their effects because they inflicted damage is cute, but again, gimmicky because you have to keep your monsters alive, so you're stuck playing cards like Wabagoo and stuff. It's okay. It's okay. It's an option. That's where I'll put it. On that note, another option, once again, is Professor of Alchemy. This'll just represent any banished deck. I think the banished decks are more gimmicky than consistent. You have to open ways to banish plus other things to utilize at the same time, and I don't know, the Helios deck just never took off. I didn't think it would. Grenmaju.deck is an interesting concept. You wouldn't play this skill, you'd play the other skill though, that searches Grenmaju. And then like a Golden Harmunculus deck, which is something you'd play with this skill, I don't know. You gotta, a lot of things gotta go your way for that to be consistent. And is it beating any of this stuff? I don't think so. But nevertheless, it's a fun concept. It's an option. I might put it in good luck now that I'm thinking about it. Shadow Reborn is a card that I feel fits like the No More Mrs. Nice My gimmick, where like it's more of a side deck option than a main deck option, since it is a generic monster reborn for any deck at the cost of half your life, and you can't do battle damage that turn, but like depending on the deck, this could be a make or break card. I'm honestly shocked it hasn't seen more play, but most people don't want to waste a side deck spot on a skill, and I understand that. Also, by doing that, you are forfeiting whatever the skill benefits for your deck for just a generic monster reborn or a generic way to pop spell and trap. So I do understand that like a lot of these decks can't sacrifice the skill that runs their deck effectively. So I get that these are options, but they're not like consistency. But I'll put them in options because they are decent side deck options for sure. I'm just gonna attack. Good luck. Not only was this skill errata to be almost pointless, and both effects became once per duel. They used to be once per turn, and now both effects are the same effect, but they put it on the limit 1 list for some reason, even though it was basically already dead. And by doing so, you've made it even worse. I mean, unless they were really worried there was like an OTK deck out there that would just use the I'm just gonna attack skill once and win the game. I don't know. Now it's here, so good luck. It's Jinzo. Jinzo's at 2. This is the best skill to use for Jinzo. Do I think it does anything? No, good luck. Moving on. Cyberdark style. Good luck. I love Cyberdarks. It's one of my favorite archetypes from old Yu-Gi-Oh! But unfortunately, if you're going to play a Cyberdark deck, I just think there are better skills to use than this. And because of that, I just don't think this card's going to do a whole lot. It's got a cool concept. It's very unique in how it works. You can only use it 3 different times. Once when your life is 3,000 or less, 2,000 or less, and 1,000 or less. And that's a cool thing that I wish more skills would kind of like take advantage of. You can use them X amount of times, but only when you've hit requirement A, B, and C. I think that's really cool. I think they put a lot of thought into this. It's just Cyberdarks, so the execution is a whole different story. I guess you could kind of put it here. There are ways to make this better than it used to be. Once again, Anti-Magic Arrows comes to mind. If you drop Cyberdark Dragon with 1,000,000 attack points, hopefully you can try and win that turn. In which case, then here you go. Bukatayu, your opponent's defense. It's getting worse, as I say. Let's just throw it in good luck and call it a day. Fusion Party! The errata kind of ruined this card. Before, the Destiny and Dragoon deck was pretty good. Very gimmicky, but pretty good. But now that you have to also have an extra card in your hand to make it good, it's much less powerful than it used to be. I'm gonna chuck it here, because fusion decks in general have an option in a skill that lets you poly without having to draw poly. And I do think, yeah, you have to discard a card as well, but at least you discard and don't shuffle a card. So if you have something like Destiny Hero Malicious, for example, you could pitch Malicious to then fuse something else, and then you have Mally Engraved to do things with. So if you can utilize the discard effectively, I think this card isn't bad. So I'll put it as an option, but it definitely ain't stealing any games for sure. At least not right now. Chillin' Out Back. This is the Koala skill. This deck was a really fun rogue deck a couple formats back. Unfortunately, I think it's fallen down to here. It's a very gimmicky deck. Yeah, your koalas and kangaroos are basically super heavy samurais where they can attack and defense and they apply their defense. But that only gets you so far. We haven't had any new kangaroos or koalas since this skill's released, so we haven't been able to really do anything extra to the deck aside from some spell and trap options. It's just super gimmicky. That's why I just have it in good luck. Ritual Ceremony! Yeah, you're over here as well. The skill wasn't bad before, but then the errata made it so much worse. Card economy with rituals is already hard enough as it is, since you usually need 2 or 3 cards, a ritual spell, the ritual monster, and something to tribute. And then Ritual Ceremony says, you reveal a ritual monster from your hand, add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, whose name is mentioned on that ritual monster, and then now you have to place 1 card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. So now you need an extra card to make that card viable, and it was already situational as it is, and we have pre-prep, so why play this, you know? Now you see them. Get this card out of my side. I'm shocked anyone even plays this. If you're playing this, your deck is... If you brick on Dark Magician, you get cards. If you're playing a deck that plays Dark Magician, who's already a brick, you don't really want him in the hand most of the time, unless I guess you have something like maybe Tribute Doll. And then the only other time you'd want him in your hand is with this skill? I'm shocked people play this. Personally, I think Dark Magician has kind of been screwed over. There's so many things they could have done that just haven't done, and no matter what they give Dark Magician, we have 2 skills I think that are like, if you brick on Dark Magician, here's a way to fix it. And it's like, no. How about you make a skill that says, like, maybe give Dark Magician an extra effect while he's on the field, kind of like you do with Kiryushin or Serpent Knight Dragon or Gaia the Fierce Knight. I don't know. Like, just stop making skills where we have to like fix our hand because we bricked on Dark Magician. I just don't get why that's the card. Good luck. We'll throw this at the bottom. I think this is the worst card of all of them. Is there anything I'd change? No, I think these are solid. I think these are solid. I understand people probably want this here, but I'm going to leave it here, deal with it. I think these are solid. I still feel like this should be here, this should be here, and this should be here, but that's just me. But this is my list, so we're going to leave it like that. Union combination might be better than I'm giving it credit for right now. I guess we'll see, but I don't know. As of right now, I just think it's a rogue option versus a good luck option that it was for a while. These are all probably accurate. These are side deck options, so if we want to make a separate section here and call them side deck skills, we can definitely do so with those. I will say though, something like Shadow Reborn Relinquished I feel like is really, really strong. I would arguably put that in a rogue slot, so maybe leave it there if you're playing something like Relinquished. But other than that, I'm going to throw it down here. And then the good luck options are all, yeah. I do think Jinzo will make a much bigger splash with stuff going forward. I do, however, think it's not probably going to be with that skill, but if it is, good luck. Maybe Intel from the Cosmos. That's actually a skill I left out of this video. I thought that card was going to like take the game kind of like this did for a while, where you can see everything your opponent draws. It hasn't done anything yet, so I guess I'll have to make a video to see if we can make it relevant, but until it does, I guess we'll leave it out of this video for now. But guys, what do you think? Do you agree with any of this? Do you disagree with any of this? Do you think I'm literally crazy? There's a very good argument for it. Until then, though, this is what I've got. Let me know what you've got in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next Yu-Gi Bros video. Peace out.
For more amazing speed duel content, subscribe to Yu-Gi Bros. It's time to duel!